Jim, Fox fam, we're going to wait a minute or two and see if some more folks show up. Jim, Fox fam, let's move lo-fi to the audience. Welcome to Operations Office Hours. We've got a light audience today, so maybe some more people will show up as the call goes on. But if not, that's okay. These are definitely just optional kind of updates out to the rest of the community. They get recorded as well, so we're all good if you guys watch them in post too. Got some updates to go over on things that have happened or are continuing to happen, focuses and operations. Maybe we'll have some time for Q&A as well. Dropped an agenda in the general chat. It looks like it got shared as well in the stage chat. So that's what we're going to be talking about. A couple of updates on different processes and procedures. We're going to do a refresher on the cool issue reporter tool that we use. An update kind of about how operations has stepped in with marketing to assure more timeliness and accountability on the press release review flow. I got a couple of words I wanted to share about Eric's post he made the other day on the way of the DAO. And then, yeah, we'll maybe Q&A, maybe give you guys some time back. We'll see. We'll see how the call goes. We're going to start with updates to prod issues. And I'm going to share my screen in the Zoom. So if you'd like to follow along there, you can. All right. And we have, I'm going to be sharing the prod issues page of the operations Notion for our work stream. We keep pretty good documentation of all things that we do, from triage and bug reporting and bounties, as well as kind of our responses for things that aren't regular, things that might be more one-offs. And this one would be prod issues. So inside this page, we have one of the sections is the key features and services. And operations has slowly been adapting our testing and expectations for what we consider to be breaking bugs or prod issue bugs, kind of as app.shapeshift.com has developed. We're still kind of in the space of supporting both beta.shapeshift.com and app.shapeshift.com, but the focuses have really pivoted more to app.shapeshift.com kind of over the last couple of months, but really, in the last couple pushes, it's been made evident that our ability and time and energy to focus on beta is dwindling, and our closeness to parity between the two is getting closer with each new major release that we get out there. So the changeover is imminent. But while we are in that phase, there's still kind of a existential question of how much should we care, how much should we be spending our energy and time on between the two when bugs start showing up. And so there is an old version of our key features and services I'm going to look at real quick on the Zoom. And you'll see here, this is what we previously set out as our line in the sand for what we considered a prod issue or not. We have a whole bunch of procedures that we follow for escalation and resolution. And all of these line items were pretty focused around beta.shapeshift.com, had a lot of wallets that were cared to be, if they were not connecting, if they were not trading, that was an escalation up to a prod issue. There are lots of features that we considered the functionality to be core across platforms, and if that was broken, that was a prod issue. And so now that this isn't our first rodeo, we've seen a lot of bugs that maybe previously would, by that definition, have been a prod issue, and we sometimes escalated them to the prod issue process, and also found ourselves sometimes really existentially questioning, like, is this something that is worth us bringing in, rallying all the troops to fix? Are there troubleshooting options that maybe we can provide that, yes, this problem still would have been defined inside that ranking of a prod issue, but we have an alternative solution now where if things are broken in beta, we might have a fixing, maybe even potentially better optimized version of that feature in app. And we can suggest to users who might be in the broken flow in beta to then troubleshoot on over an app and maybe gain ourselves a user that's no longer going to be at beta and will connect with us at app. So with that in mind, kind of continuing best troubleshooting practices and trying to make sure that we are optimized in our focus of how we are spending our engineering cycles on fixing problems and what we can kind of relegate out to potentially be bountied or stack up into a pile of issues that can be containerized until they need to be addressed. So you'll see that there's some changes on this. All of the green lines on this are things that have been updated from what they previously were, and there are things that are red lines here that we've actually de-escalated and are no longer keeping the same sort of prod issue resolution focus on. And so if we kind of go through them quickly, we've changed from beta.shapeshift.com as well as app.shapeshift.com, as well as mobile is operational and functional as expected. And now the prod issue escalation process will only be enacted if app.shapeshift.com is functioning. We have very good reporting procedures. We'll even talk about the issue reporter later for things that would break in other places that we used to call a prod issue that we are now de-escalating. And we will address those as soon as possible, but sometimes due to the lack of contributors with permissions to the databases to fix them, or the level of priority that we need to address with the issue at hand. We're starting to get more and more into a case where there's really not many situations that don't have a troubleshooting issue that we can send people to app, and we hope to have that be a Venn diagram that's a full circle very soon, so then the migration can happen. Acceptable load times are under 3 seconds. That one stays the same. Generating receive addresses and QR codes for Bitcoin and ETH, that stays the same. We've changed the accurate data for dashboards and balances. Now we care about that for KeepKey, for MetaMask integration, and for native wallets. We do care about the other wallets connecting, but if they, for chance, XDeFi breaks, Kepler breaks, maybe some random wallet that they're using Wallet Connect through, but not all Wallet Connect wallets breaks. We again have a process for reporting these issues, ticketing them, bountying them, and getting them live into prod fixed way faster than any sort of prod issue escalation in previous centralized iterations could have handled it, and maybe not as quickly as we could if we told DeFi to stop everything and fix this bug right now. But if we're going to move on with the DAO, we have to continue to build practices and procedures that we can lean into and rely on, that we can scale with. And we've built some really good ones that allow us to start bountying out this work to community developers and developing new trust in code owners, that we can have this really spread out this accountability of the maintenance of this to more than just even the ops team. So we're not really going to talk about the bounty structure much today, but we do have a really cool team of trusted community devs that take on tickets outside of our lowest bounty level. We've got a good relationship with the ops team with them, and it's an experience of fixing things in an expedited manner that I don't think ShapeShift has ever really had the ability to scale into before. So I hope we can continue to do that across more places than just maintenance tickets. But for this focus, we've got a really good process for these prod issues, and now we've got a good funnel for the solution for those as well. Sorry, I keep getting distracted. Going back to the list. We're talking about successful wallet pairing, successful TX building, and successful 0x trades. And all of those have been paired down in wallets that we want to make sure are functional, and also been paired down into the platform that we care most about, which is app.shapeshift.com. So yeah, there used to be a line in there that was app.shapeshift.com is currently in alpha. Issues discovered there that are not recreatable at beta or the mobile app are not considered prod issues. And we've basically gotten to the point that we can flip that statement around. And app is currently the main DAO focused in product, and issues discovered in beta or the mobile app that are not recreatable at app.shapeshift.com are now not considered prod issues. So it's taken us a while to be able to pivot our stance on errors and issues and risk there. And I'm really proud of the DAO for coming as far as we have to be able to actually make this pivot now. But operations feels very confident that we can now say that our prod issues we care more about and focus at app.shapeshift.com than beta.shapeshift.com. We now have documentation that also we will follow as well. So that was the update that I wanted to provide to the crew about the kind of change in what we consider prod issues in the operations work stream. So I haven't looked at the Discord stage chat to see what's going on here. Did I miss anything in the stage chat, guys?
Elon Musk is trying to take over our brains with his new brain implant device. So
Yep.
that's all
We all
Elon
knew
Musk.
that. Yeah, we all knew that already. Um, so yeah, that was my first update. Um, these kind of all roll in together. So now that we've set the table with that update to our prod issue care and focus, that's a good lens to then think about operations deployment testing. I have line items 2 and 3 are the updates to deployment testing and regression testing. We do consider those two separate things. If you're new to the operations lingo here, deployment testing is when operations is testing new changes that are going to be out in a release or have been pushed out into a release to make sure that we don't break the world, to make sure that feature functionality is still working as expected, and that we don't need to communicate clearly with engineering that they need to do it or that we have to hide this behind a feature flag, whatever the mitigation step might be inside the release. And then we also have this other thing testing called regression testing, and this is more kind of like the night watch. So this is us still poking around at the functionality, kind of all of the edge cases of everything in the platform to make sure that maybe there isn't a third party dependency that broke something that had nothing to do with our release process, but still brought down the feature functionality or availability. I've talked a lot about testing over the course of these operations office hours. It feels really cool to be in a DAO space that we can be as kind of loose as we are right now. We went from full regression tests of every edge case of the platform twice a day, every single day, to now something much looser. So I'm actually going to talk about deployment testing first because that's where we were. Um, inside the new deployment testing expectations, I don't know if you guys heard the announcement from engineering. There is a downsize that has happened over at that work stream. We're not exactly sure what that's going to mean to our release cadence. Right now, we do a release Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And we've got some really great stats from our previous All Fox to show that in doing those releases 4 times a week, we're able to get out much more code and have much more efficient testing windows because the amount of things per release is going down. So I'm not exactly sure in this new normal of the DAO if those if that release cadence needs to be adjusted or is still going to be appropriate. We'll definitely find out after the retreat and once we are back to pushing things out to prod. Um, but in being aware of that, operations has always been inside this release cadence trying to discover the new maybe MVP or at least common denominator of tests that we can perform to assure that the feature functionality is what it's expecting to do and that we're not breaking everything, but we're also not breaking the bank in our test funds. So we've continually pared down what we expect and what we test, how much we have to do in terms of recreations when we find something before reporting it. And with all of this, we hope to vastly decrease our test fund spend. Right now, we have a budget for $20,000 a month in USDC for test budget, and we spend pretty close to all of it each month. We've had a couple of months that we've pulled back in due to gas prices going down. We've also had some ratcheting up of features and things that require a lot more calls and executions that we need to test too. So there's kind of this ever flowing balance of like, I want to make sure that if we get a new staking thing in there, we've tested all of the edge cases to make sure that we're not going to put the user's funds at risk and have a bad experience where people can't claim their funds out of it. But in order to do that, and in order to continue to pile on new elements, if we want to be in this abstract layer system where we can continue to add new chains, new ways to stake. We'll get to a point that to test the full product suite will cost me that whole budget at some point. So this comes to us now being more mindful about our regression testing. So the most extreme was 2 regression tests a day, and it was kind of necessary in certain points. Our centralized servers definitely had band-aids and chewing gum and all kinds of really bad tape holding things together that broke apart when people would push changes or cough or things like that. So moving to open source has put us in a really, really nice new place that we don't have to be as paranoid and test as often. But we have found that operations is able to discover lots of things that don't go as expected, and we can address them through writing GitHub tickets, getting them bountied out, and have some really nice processes that are light years ahead of any sort of maintenance board we used to have, or way we used to try to prioritize bug fixes in previous iterations of ShapeShift. But for trying to solve this scalable problem through our regression testing, we've decided, or I guess I've decided, and have implemented with the team, more of kind of like a monthly checklist. You can think of it like a food service deep cleaning list. And we've separated out all of the features and the edge cases and the wallets into different orders of importance, whether that's weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, bi-monthly, and have built a schedule to have all of our operations assistants kind of round robin during their tasks and take on one of these smaller things. And now instead of having to test a full staking feature, we're able to more discover we really don't need to test this more than a month or two, once a month, once every week. And we're now building schedules for when new features come in. How often do we test them? Pretty regularly, because we expect changes to come into them. Until how do we kind of process them into the schedule and have it be like clockwork and only check on turning the lights on and off when we really need to. So this is all kind of in a spirit of optimization and cost savings, as well as finding the true kind of floor of need of utility of this testing over and over again. Yep, I thought that maybe there was important things going on in the stage chat, but it's just some gifts. Thanks, guys, for keeping it going there. If I go back to my agenda now, sorry, I've been kind of rambling through all of this. I felt it was important to express to you guys. I think that's it for me, though, for now, and we might pivot over to Never Was to talk about our issue reporter. Maybe I'll give 2 seconds before that and just set the table here with the fact that we have a process that we built pretty early on in the DAO that hasn't really needed to change. And we haven't really talked about it much because it's working really well, and there's kind of contributors that come and go in a revolving fashion. And I guess it's not my I don't need to force all of you guys to follow all of our processes. That's asking maybe a little bit too much of you. But if we can kind of do gentle reminders that if you care enough to follow through this process, if you find yourself in a bug that you can recreate, we do have tools that any contributor can use that will flow through our process all the way through to bounties and to resolution much faster than if you were to open a support ticket and have it kind of bubble up into this same flow just a little bit later. So Neverwas is going to actually walk us through what this tool does and what it asks of you, and it's pretty simple. And yeah, I'll pass the mic to Neverwas.
Cool. Thanks, Tyler. Let's see. So I did start sharing my screen. Hopefully everyone's able to see it. Right now it's just on my Discord, but let's see. Can you see it, Tyler? Just make sure before I continue and talk for a long period of time.
Yes, sir. We've got Discord up right now.
Wonderful. All right. So basically, as Tyler stated, there's definitely a process that we've kind of honed um, as far as like gathering information and disseminating that information to not only to our operations team for recreations, but also to other parties that might be necessary to get involved, like engineering, of course, or product, or even to the point where it gets to go to outside contributors for bounties. So basically, there's definitely a distinction of where triage, which is kind of the report issues process I'm going to talk about today, is geared towards like involved contributors. So these contributors are willing to document the issue and recreation steps, providing details so determined solutions can be found and or created. So basically, this is not for like a regular consumer of our product normally that would go towards support geared channels. This is for like internal contributors, people who are, use involved with the DAO, or are more familiar with the product line and are willing to kind of do some documentation and process that helps us identify bugs and solutions towards those. So I'll go ahead and start with the process here. So basically, where you would go to that would you do find this channel in the support group in our Discord, and it has the lovely little bug associated with it as emoji icon. So it is, for bugs or what you determine that you think could be a bug that we want to look at. So you would click on this report issues. And once in this channel, it'll give you a quick summary of what the process is like, and you would go down here to this form Fox, and you would select this icon here, this emoji icon. So people that have submitted these previously might see this already in an active state, which will cause it not to fire. So you have to basically click on it to remove that state, and then click on it again to where it's like this. And that will then create a pop-up message in your DMs that provides you with the process here that we're going to follow. So it's step by step. It's pretty self-explanatory, but I will run through it quickly so that everyone can see. And so basically, the person comes here, they believe they discovered a bug, and they click on the bot. It then generates this DM. And you start going in here. First thing is you want to basically, what is the issue? So this is just the name of the issue. So keeping this nice and compact, and the title is good, but also descriptive enough to where it tells us exactly what is the problem and what's being reported here within the thing. Second question is a small description. This is a short, very short to the point description of what it was exactly you were doing and basically what happened. For this example, I'm just going to say, as everyone should be doing, they're trying to give me all of their Fox, but when they input less than a max amount, it just spins trying to calculate. So as you enter in these text and for the fields and hit enter, and then we'll move on to the next one if it is a proper data that's entered. Next question would be, when did the problem first start? This can be very subjective. Obviously, you might not know when it started, but basically it's good to just put in when you noticed this problem, just to give us an idea, that it's maybe relatively recent, or it could be something that's been longstanding and not caught up to this point. This would just be, basic question. Are you able to recreate issues? So once you find it one time, can you go ahead and reproduce the same process that you took to get there and recreate it? This is sometimes not always the easiest thing to do, but it's very helpful. If you're able to kind of document the recreation steps that you go through and then go back and try again, it will give us a lot as far as understanding if it's a bad state or a bad cache or something like that within the process. I just selected one. The two options there were 1 and 2 versus typing the words. So make sure that you understand that it is looking for numbers in that case. And then now here is the actual recreation steps that you took to reproduce it. So best format here, kind of, if you're able to do, is kind of list it out, in a recreatable fashion with numbers is very helpful for us, so we know exactly the steps you were taking. Because what's going to happen is we're going to go back and we're going to try to recreate this. Multiple ops team members are going to go back and try to recreate this and see if we can, re-establish this as a reoccurring problem. As you can see, I just put in here some information, as far as the steps go, and then you would just hit enter. It would take it there. And then you would go to here where this is also something that you might not have the direct answer to, but it's helpful to know what interactions you were doing or what platform you were interacting on, so that we can kind of eliminate other scenarios and situations. So it's best to always state, where you've seen it. If you tried it in multiple places, it's always good to, you can also, list those out as well. Here comes another question that you might not have the full answer to, but it's just helpful to gather as much information as possible for us. We can, obviously expand upon this if necessary. So it's perfectly valid if you just put you don't know. You don't know how many users it is currently. That's fine. We'll work towards the solution, but just having that, if it's something like you think, excuse me, that's affecting everyone platform wide, obviously it becomes an escalation issue that we'll deal with. And you have the next question, which is a yes or no question, or sorry, an option 1 or 2 question again. Does this issue affect the user's ability to interact with their money? So basically, this is part of our escalation process. If it is, preventing someone to interact with their money, we definitely want to know that. We want to have that on our radar and push through that as fast as possible to resolve those issues. This is basically if it came from a different location. Normally, we usually see non-epical. This is usually the response here. If it doesn't have an associated ticket number or something like that, this is something we haven't been able to really combine in the current process with support being in Zendesk and kind of detached sometimes. But we do get tickets submitted from support personnel to where they will come in here and fill out this for a customer. And they sometimes can associate a ticket from Zendesk if they know it, and they will put it in here. So it does help certain parties. And then after you're done with those few questions that we just answered, it basically just gives you a summary here. It's best to look over this, make sure there aren't any mistakes. One thing to note here, if there is a mistake, there's no way of going back to an individual step and re-entering just that. You have to actually cancel it completely out and start over. This is, not ideal, obviously, but it is relatively quick because they are not that many questions you have to go through. And if you have the recreation step already created and just copy and pasting it from somewhere, it's easy to just put that back in. I'm not going to submit this right now just because it's there'll be noise that we receive on our end, and obviously it's not necessary to submit a non-issue. So I will cancel out here, and it'll actually give you the, make sure you're confirmed, and it will let you know that you'll lose all your progress. Which is fine. And that is the current process that we have for submitting a triage ticket, like I said, which is more geared towards contributors that are, willing and able to basically recreate an issue, bring up a bug that, we feel is on the platform, whether this is, any of the applications that we deal with as for supporting for Keep Key, for beta, for app. We will get some for CoinCap once in a while in there if something's misfiring in there. And, we also get things, related to the DAO, like, excuse me. Sometimes you'll see Portis will be in there, but we usually hand that off to the Portis team. And we do get, other issues with other wallets that might not be directly supported by us, but we can definitely look into, investigate, and get the parties that need to be involved to make sure that a resolution can happen in the most effective way. And that's it, Tyler. Pass it back to you.
Thanks, Nervoz. Really appreciate you doing that refresher. And maybe a couple of closing thoughts for myself on this. My brain definitely wanted to do an optimized version of this issue reporter that instead of spitting it out to Discord, maybe we could do something that went directly over to GitHub, and so we could have even less process and flow, and we could have the issue go directly to our engineers that were looking for the fix. But that does introduce a new problem, and that would be that if this tool were to be open to the public, anyone could then create issues that were maybe verified or unverified inside our GitHub that would not have any sort of checks or process imbalances of making sure they're going in the right repo, they're written the right way. So we definitely in ops are well positioned with how often we're poking and prodding at the different versions of the app to know all of the silly little have you tried turning it on and off again questions to ask. And often, sometimes, while someone might be very adamant that they see that something is wrong with the app, there's some way of holding your breath and crossing your eyes and doing something that we might know over here that we can help you resolve it before it needs to actually get escalated to a ticket that's going to be actionable. And this has really reduced the amount of tickets that we see in GitHub that have had like challenges. Developers go to implement something and then spin up what they assume is the bug, and it's not even there. And yeah, thank you, Shifty, for posting that. There's that link to actually trigger the reports is that report issues. And HPain's asking about making a video for this so we can make it easier. I'm not sure if we'll ever have the funding to make a video, but I think we might be able to scrape something together, a tutorial of one of us walking through it, maybe even of a quick highlight of what we just did there with Never Was. That might be a perfect thing to cut into something smaller. But yeah, you're right. There's a little bit of a process, HPain, and I don't expect it to be for dummies. You can walk in and do it right away. But for those of us that are contributors that have been around the DAO for a minute and might see something and want to say something, this will definitely get you attention and priority much faster than hopping into general and saying I can't find my atoms right now. So yeah, thanks, Never Was. Doesn't look like there's very much questions about that at all. So we're gonna keep going. To segue into the update about the marketing stuff, similar to operations being able to kind of double check in middleman issues that might be reported before they get to engineering, so we can avoid engineering spending cycles on false reports and things like that. Ops is really good at being kind of nags, if you will. We can babysit, we can track down folks, we can get answers to things, whether it be via DM or in public posts, and are really good at just writing reminders to make sure that we can get updates until we get things across the finish line. So one of the problems that we've really had that maybe it's best to describe the issues of tension that we have is we have marketing who has very kind of strict deadlines sometimes with some of their releases. We sometimes have partners that need to have information that is no longer going to change after a certain date, a certain amount of time before it goes out. Sometimes we need to have information in advance of the release for so long. Sometimes we need to know that the feature is going to be live and we can't talk about it until this release comes out, but the release has to work as intended. And all of these require a lot of juggling of coordination to keep a schedule that's got a decent amount of flow of releases continually happening. And we're at a pretty agile software development DAO that is releasing a lot of stuff. I think a lot of, if you aren't paying attention to what's going on with the releases in Ops Public Chat, you've probably seen lots of other contributors comment on it too. I know I've seen a few and say that we're moving very quickly here, and we don't have any intention of slowing down. So that's kind of the map and set of expectations from marketing that they have for continuing to provide what we as the DAO expect them to and completing the job of PRs. And then we have engineering, who is a lot more malleable. You know, we are moving very quickly and getting things done, but it's not easy for us to define the undefined when there are unknowns inside what we are building, and we don't know the bugs we're going to run into when we run into them. You know, we're not exactly sure if the fix that solves this is going to be the one that gets it out the door. There's lots of ways that throughout the engineering process we can develop level of effort estimations and scopes and spikes of a lot of different work. But to be able to say, like, we're getting it out next Tuesday, is really shortchanging the experience of development and making sure that we can check all of the boxes that we need to. So we have this odd pairing where engineering is not quite as deadline specific, but still cranking out a ton of content, and we have marketing who's trying to shovel that into some form of measurable expectations of days and things like that. And to get in the middle and make sure that we're having all of our information fact checked, we're not speaking incorrectly about highly technical features. There's a lot of coordination and collaboration inside these documents that marketing is releasing that needs to be gone over than just marketing. You know, if we were to expect all of our content writers and our kind of stripped down bare bones DAO right now to be technical content experts on every single release that they're pushing out there, I think they might ask for a raise, you know, or might ask for a whole bunch more people on their team, some form of something that is outside of the bounds of expectation that they currently are when they're hitting the needs of their marketing roles. So likewise, on the other end of that coin, if we want our developers and our product team to be doing their best work and effort, sometimes they have the availability to go talk about it and do it. You know, but I don't know if you've been in software development for long enough, you can have great code, but coders suck at documentation. It's not a thing that comes with the expectation of the territory. If you can hone in on the code and do it, like, someone else can come in and clean up the documentation afterwards. Well, ops is the other people. We're that some people. And we here have like a really great space where we've developed a process and protocol with a Kanban board with expectations that meet marketing and reviews of all of these, that instead of having to go hunt down DeFi and make sure that he confirms every single fact on unstoppable domains because he was the one that did the push out there, ops tested it. You know, we didn't build it, but we did check all of the features and know what it's supposed to do and what it isn't supposed to do, especially from the times that it didn't do what it was supposed to do until we tested it until it did. So using that knowledge, we're able to kind of step in and be copy editors a little bit. We're not really interested in messing around with the voice or the grammar of this piece. That's really on marketing, and that's not what we're here for. And there's already a kind of too many cooks situation going on in some aspects of this already. So just to allow fact checking to be more accurate, so marketing can feel more confident in doing the job that they would like to do with this, we now have ops able to kind of divide and conquer and split out and confirm all of these on a much quicker and expedited timeline than anyone in product or engineering had the available time to provide for marketing when they were needing it. So we've now begun in operations to delegate out the responsibility of these individual tasks to co-align with ops who are involved in, say, what we used to formerly call go-no-goes or goats-no-goats. We still kind of have a internal process where we're viewing each of those projects like we would in a goat-no-go, but they are not having the same calls that they do. They just kind of have a thread now. Can have a call, just we're being a lot more efficient and asynchronous with threads. So yeah, that's the hope that now someone who's in charge of one of those threads could be the central person with their ear to the ground to review a PR much quicker than Diggy could come in and say these things and we would know the same knowledge base. We're definitely not knowledge wizards. We just test a lot of things and know a lot of things. But at the same point, if there is something that's outside of the ops space of knowledge that we are required to fact check, we are closer to those other folks that we do know have the knowledge and can beg and pester them for the very specific question rather than maybe having them review an entire article. So that's the process that we've begun a couple of weeks ago. And big shout out to Lindsay and Irina and HPain. You guys have iterated on this a whole bunch and met us wherever ops has asked you to meet us. Even though the goal posts have changed a couple times as we've discovered what the real need is here. So yeah, if ops can continue to be optimizing inside this coordination space, we will. If this can procedure itself to where ops can be less and less of a hands-on manual admin-y person here, and this can more just be a flow where people tag people and we follow a documented process. That's the ideal we'd like to get to. And that's, yeah, thanks HPain. It has introduced new challenges that we have to figure out for priority and speed. But I feel like we're addressing them with a more level head than we maybe were previously a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, that's all the updates that I have around DAO kind of operational practices that we've been up to. I do have one more line item I wanted to briefly mention, and that's Eric wrote a really, really great piece called The Way of the DAO. See if I have it on my clipboard. Do I? No, I don't. Maybe someone can share it inside the stage chat. It's in the announcements just a little bit ago. Eric is known to write thought pieces kind of around crypto or money in general, idealism, and he's been kind enough to have the DAOs be a little bit of a focus of something that he's been writing about every now and then. And this one's really, really good. It's a kind of very open, honest view of the logistics and operational overhead of what ShapeShift was. Very honest about prices of things, about costs for just maintenance and upkeep of the former centralized version of ShapeShift, and then snapshot lenses of what we're doing here now. And I think what we're doing here now is really, really important, especially viewed through the lens that Eric presents there of how much change Shapeshift was able to go through, how much we were able to unshackle ourselves from. He presents some really cool ideas about governance in general, and we're going through a lot of self-identity and discovery in our own governance process right now. And he is able to present kind of our own circumstances in a nice Alice and Bob lens that really gets at the meat of why I feel I'm one of the reasons I'm here, and one of the reasons why I think a lot of the contributors. Apologies, my phone just started ringing. That was distracting. But we're here to kind of challenge a lot of these centralized concepts that we figured out a way to organize and collaborate and get shit done better than the old traditional ways that used to exist, that you needed to kind of just pay credence to the system, as it were. So yeah, I think it's a really, really, really great thought piece. I'm so grateful for him for continuing to kind of use his platform to project out what's going on with our DAO here. It's a great perspective to see, and to have him kind of share some of those inner numbers and thoughts about centralized shapeshift. He certainly didn't have to, but it puts a lot of things into perspective. Yeah, I don't know, I could talk about it more for a while, but I really feel like Eric's words are worth it too. And I thought that I should really say that if you haven't taken the chance to read it yet, and you're here at the DAO, check it out. It'll probably encourage you a little bit, maybe inspire you to make a proposal, to maybe do something a little different, maybe with more vigor, or to reaffirm your convictions and what you might be doing here at the DAO and why. So it certainly did for me. So I don't know if you're listening to this or if you will later, Eric, but thanks for that. Super, super awesome. And that's all I have on this. Oh, hey guys, yeah, you're on the stage too. What do you guys have thoughts or things you want to share on it?
I mean, I did get a chance to look it over a little bit yesterday. One thing that stood out to me, and this is just a personal take on it, obviously, was that, you know, the complexity that individuals go to transact in the business community. I felt, just as a personal thing, as someone who's been an entrepreneur and has spun up a lot of businesses, there were a lot of unnecessary complications that were introduced into the solutions that were provided for, you know, taxation and regulation and stuff like that. I understand the purpose of that was to, you know, basically shield representation for, you know, for possibility of mitigating risk and liability and stuff like that. But the fact that, you know, if you go to like 3 other countries or whatever and establish, you know, corporations and then tie it into another location or region and, you know, go through all those additional steps, yeah, you're adding that complexity. And now I know crypto, you know, is something that's very, you know, fast moving and new, and a lot of people are trying to find ways to, you know, best implement how to do business in that space. But to me, it felt that all that added complexity, you really can't complain. Not that Eric was complaining, but he was pointing out the problems of it. That, you know, you have all this legal and you know consternation for the process that's there, that's very over convoluted and very difficult to deal with, and you got to pay all these entities to do research on local regional laws and how they interact and all that. I mean, that's not, you know, something that happens to a large effect in most organizations. So, you know, I think that that was almost like, you know, brought um, on the shoulders and the weight of, you know, Shapeshift AG. And whether it was a good decision or not is obviously something that everyone can debate. But I just felt that, you can't really say, well, okay, I spent, as an organization, we spent hundreds of millions of dollars in lawyers and, figuring out compliance and stuff like that. That was very eye opening for me. Like, and obviously, making the transition to a DAO will alleviate a lot of that overhead and expense. But yeah, now that was just one thing that I saw was very odd, is that, um, to go through those lengths to protect, certain things within the organization, you have to expect to, create additional costs and expense and stuff. And maybe it's over extreme to one end. And I'm sure the lawyers, excuse me, were taking full advantage of, having the opportunity to bill, for those instances and stuff like that. But yeah, that was just one thing that I definitely noted was there and was very poignant to me.
Yeah, there's like a lot of things in the thing in his post about money in general that is really eye opening. I like to think maybe he like ends it well to the statements about that DAOs aren't for every organization, and they certainly have their own complications that still need to be solved. But even outside of the money, there's things that we as a DAO can navigate through and make decisions based on, and can be more agile and responsive, and give true decentralized ownership through governance tokens in ways that other organizations can't. So yeah, look like we're getting close to out of time. If anyone's got any Q&A stuff, I got 3 minutes we can dedicate to it. Happy to bring people on stage if they want to raise their hands or drop things in the stage chat. But also, looks like there's more people in here than we started, so thanks for sticking through for a full hour of operational babble. It was good to have you. It's good to have contributors who care about what we're doing over here. And yeah, I hope you guys read Eric's piece. It's real, real, real good. Yeah, each pain running a business does take a lot, and I equally want to throw up sometimes when thinking about how much it takes to just be and get by in this weird, structured world we live in sometimes. And yes, Willie, I appreciate you as well, and we are going to make it. We are going to make it. I have strong faith, and I'm super bullish on the contributors we have here, on the vision that we have, and on our bright future. So on that, I think we'll bring Lo-Fi Girl back up and wish you all a good GM.